Welcome to part 5, is it, of this EDV fixer-upper. So we are now at the point where everything is fixed except for the heat pump. So the heat pump is not working. So where are we now? Well, so there's no more DTCs in the system. I'm reading error-free. I am reading low pressure on the transducer, and the pump isn't working. So based on what I've seen online, apparently these heat pumps do leak, right? Especially from the two-way valves and the three-way valves, because there's a lot of extra plumbing for the heat pump, right? It's not just a simple air conditioner, there's more to it. So that is kind of what I'm thinking. So I'm going to remeasure this transducer to prove that the transducer is not at fault, and also I have a feeling that this compressor is actually kicking in. Right? So if I go into the activations and I set, activate compressor, it doesn't turn on. But I believe when I plug this in, some noise is happening underneath here from this area. I think that the compressor is kicking in, but because there's zero pressure in the system, it shuts down right away. It doesn't start up again. But that brief second that it fires up, I believe it does. Right? So I'm gonna put the camera next to it, and because I don't, I've never driven this thing. I don't know the history of it. I don't know what a heat pump sounds like. I don't know what the compressor sounds like on this, an electric compressor. So I don't know anything, right? And I certainly don't know the history of this car. So that might be the compressor. I don't know. So let's give it a shot and see what happens. Okay, so here, down there, if you can see that, that wire connects to the air conditioning compressor. Of course, all this battery stuff is on it, right? But I'm just gonna focus on this, and then I'm going to, I'm gonna reconnect the battery here. And last time something kicked in, so let's just listen and see what we see. Nothing. Okay. All right. So let's. Okay. Let me. Okay. I'm gonna keep this here, and I think I opened the door or something. Let me see if I just open the door, or get the key. I don't know. Okay, that was it. Did you hear that noise? I don't know what that noise is, but let's see if that's what the air conditioner is. I got my voltmeter hooked up, and we're going to measure this transducer directly. So I read the DTC, I read the live data, right? But the live data says 0, right? So when you see 0, you don't know if it's 0 or if something is broken. So according to the specs, this is the pressure transducer on the high pressure line, right? And I believe that's the only transducer there is in the whole system, right? So the spec says that if it's between 5 volts, which is the red wire here, and 0.5 volts, then this is working, right? And so you have power, ground, and the middle wire, which is white, is your value of reading, right? So the whole system is on. So if we measure, just put a voltmeter on that. Just try to read the voltage right here. There. So you see that 0.505, right? So that's the voltage coming from this transducer, right? So 0.5 is the lowest this can be and still be working, right? So basically, I believe what this is saying is the pressure transducer is working and there's no pressure in the system. That is why the compressor is not kicking in. And it doesn't give a DTC because I guess Kia doesn't think that's a problem. Anyways, so that's what I think the problem is. Okay, so if the system is low, then throw a can of Freon in there and away you go. Well, you can't. So why can't you do that? This system runs on 134A, which is which is fairly common. That's not a big deal. But this runs on POE oil, right? So POE is a synthetic oil specifically designed for these electric compressors, you know, in a high stress environment, as opposed to PAG oil, which is the normal oil, right? So those two oils are not compatible, and if you mix them, apparently it's like oil and water, so they're not going to mix and they're not going to lubricate properly, and you could destroy your system by using that. So you cannot use PAG oil, and you also cannot use PAG dye, and you can't use these Freon recharge kits because they're made for PAG systems, because the majority of systems are PAG, right? So this is the problem. And if you call another service station, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, we can, you know, maybe take a look at it. But the problem with that is the manual specifically says don't use a normal AC evacuator or recharge station that you use for normal cars, because it's made for PAG. So you're going to have cross-contamination if you use that to charge or refill, right? So, and I called a couple shops and they all said the same thing. They don't touch electric cars, right? Air conditioning shops don't touch these. This is dealer only, because the dealer will have the POE only recharge system, just like dedicated just for electric vehicles. And that's it. So this is something that you only do at the dealer. Nobody else will touch these things. So definitely don't try to put a can of those refrigerants in, even if you find a 134A, because it's going to have what they call additives. Well, what does that mean? Is it additives for PAG based system? Because it's not compatible, right? So you could potentially wreck your system if you do the wrong thing, with the wrong person, put the wrong stuff in there, right? So that's the problem. Now, I called the dealership, I tried to book an appointment, and even they didn't return my call. So they are busy. Business must be good. I can't even imagine what it will cost to get a heat pump non-op fixed by a dealer. I don't know. So what now? I don't know. Morning, everyone. So I ended up going to the dealership and get the air pump fixed. So they did a recall on the battery. So because of the recall, I was able to book an appointment. So while I was there, I told them, well, you know, the air pump doesn't work either. So they replaced it. So fortunately, it was only a few parts. It was the expansion valve and a couple O-rings, and of course labor, service, and recharge fee. So total bill came to $831. So not cheap, but they did fix it, and they said there was no leaking. So that will be the that's it. That's what's fixed. So let's fire it up, and we'll see what a working heat pump sounds like. So we're in the car. I also have the OBD hooked up, so we'll just kind of power it up. Okay, air conditioning is hooked up. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a bit of humming from the front engine. We'll go outside in a second. Okay, so it should spike in wattage, and then it should come down as the heat pump kicks in. So I have it just set at 20. But it's a cold day today, so. The compressor should be kicking in by now. Let's go for a walk. Aha! Yes. So if you can hear that, that's the heat pump compressor. So that's what it's supposed to sound like. So it's already warm in here. Okay, we'll turn on the diagnostics as well. Is it USA? Okay, so we should get oh, sorry, gauge pressure. There we go. So APT sensor, and it's reading non-zero. At least it means that there's pressure in the system. But the compressor is kicking in. And that is probably the PTC heater dying down as the heat pump kicks in. Well, it looks like the PTC is cycling a bit. So it'll calm down. So I guess it depends on how cold it is outside, and depends on what you're setting the internal temperature on. But I've set the internal to 20 degrees. So yeah, it'll just kind of die down. And that's it. And that's what the heat pump is supposed to be doing. All right, so it looks like the car's fixed, and we'll be enjoying the heating and air conditioning using this heat pump. Good.